It's time for the Access of Easy podcast, the weekly technology digest that keeps you ahead of the curve. Brought to you by EasyDNS.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to Access of Easy. This is the audio sidekick to the weekly newsletter at accessofeasy.com. You can sign up, get a discount on EasyDNS products when you sign up. Plus, all the stuff we don't cover here on the podcast, you can read up on. Again, EasyDNS.com. Sign up. All it takes is your email. Len, what is going on over there, buddy? Happy Friday.
It's just, it's winter, Joey.
Yeah.
And we're going to be getting a very severe, as they call it, winter storm in the next little while. Plus, I'm not sure if you saw the temperatures next week. It's going to plummet. So we've been very fortunate.
We've been lucky.
Yeah, we have been very
When's
lucky.
the storm coming? Do you know? Is it today or tomorrow? Tonight, maybe?
It's supposed to start sometime on Friday afternoon-ish, Friday evening-ish, and then carry over into the evening of Friday. But that's a storm later front. I don't want to make this into a weather channel, but yeah, man, everything is good. How about you, Joey?
I'm good, man. I'm good. My wife just took little Moose to work. I can hear Tito kind of prancing outside the door here, my in-laws' dog. So as soon as we're done here, I'm going to take him for a walk. So we better get going. Today, we have the quote from last week. Every moment is a fresh beginning. That's from T.S. Eliot. Tony, the big winner. Nice job, Tony. Good snipe there. And today's quote, do not hesitate to ask boldly for more. Who asks a king for a penny? I like that. If you know who that's by, put it in the comments. No Googling. You guys know the rules. You have to go to your set of encyclopedias to find that one. No control Fing on the internet. So first person to get that right gets your next hosting renewal on EasyDNS. Can't beat that. Len, 5 stories today. Where do you want to start, my friend?
I think it's 6.
6 stories today. Where do you want to start?
Well, Elon Musk's new X. There's some interesting information going on surrounding some of the accounts over there because there's a new trend by people wanting to get their hands on some ill-gotten booty. And we're talking about people stealing some stolen accounts, X/Twitter accounts. And these accounts are being peddled on the dark web. So some people are actually stealing these accounts, the access to the accounts, and the information is being sold on the dark web. And it's just not any run-of-the-mill Twitter or X account. I'm going to call it X from the rest of the show. But these are the stolen, coveted gold checkmark accounts, Joey.
Gold checkmark is that's like a association with a company. Is that what the
I think from what I was looking at, there's not any association. It's just you're paying a crap load.
Oh, okay.
More. And
cool.
Would you wager a guess how much you have to pay per month for this?
The Plus service is about $20. What's that one? 500 more?
You're gonna ballpark. It's $1,000 per month.
Okay.
This. So these are not cheap accounts. The people behind this, they have money to spend, significant amount of money to spend, or a corporation behind it, they're willing to write it off. But that's a topic for another time. But yeah, these are generally used by large corporation businesses and the like. That's generally what these are attributed to. But anybody could, I guess, apply for one of these gold checkmarks account if you have the money. So these accounts, they're being compromised, but they're also then being used as weapons by some of these malicious actors. And by doing so, these guys are now able to spread malware and phishing attacks. So this is very lucrative on the black market. People obtaining this, they're selling this for about $2,000 a pop, which is, in my eyes, pretty cheap, if you ask me, because considering how much you're spending to get this account verified, I would expect it to be a lot more in the open market, black market, but who am I to say anything? But anyways, people are reminded here, if you do have one of these accounts, I'm not sure if anybody is that's listening here, you got to scrutinize your X account. And you have to scrutinize the feed for any suspicious activities, and also for unusual tweets, direct messages. But also if there's a surge in followers, that's another thing that's going to be a telltale sign something's up with your account. And people obviously should be using robust security policies and passwords within your organizations, some sort of unique passwords rotated often. But given this, we see that these gold checkmark accounts have been hacked. This is going to tie into a story that we'll talk about later. I'm not going to talk about it very much now, but the SEC account was hacked this past week, and that's on the docket that we'll be discussing today. I'm wondering if this was used. Somebody hacked it, got access to it, compromised it, sold it on the dark web, use that information. Then from there, they were able to to use the hacked SEC account and post some nefarious information about Bitcoin. I'm wondering if that is everything. So I'm just trying to tie two stories together here. But man, oh man, like there's some people out there that are spending lots of money and they're not doing proper due diligence to secure their account. If you're spending upwards of $1,000 a month, over $1,000 a month, you should be very secure with your information. But clearly, people are not. They're putting password 123 or some other crappy passwords easy to hack, and they're getting wrecked in the process. So just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you have a lot of common sense. And this is an example of it.
Pretty funny. Eh? We talk every week about people who are dropping the ball on their password security. This is a great one. I can't wait to talk about the link to the SEC with this story. I think that's maybe the bigger story here. I'm always shocked that people, like you mentioned, spend so much time and energy deciding to yellow check an account or even blue check an account and then don't secure it. It's strange to me. And this clearly the best part is that any like Twitter user or X user will tell you that you can clearly see that there are accounts with check marks being bought for the purposes of spam or pushing scams or whatever. And this, your account is not exempt from this. They will look to get your account too. Now, I'm with you on the price. They should be charging more for this, should they not? It seems like a really good deal. You can get a nice account with a bunch of followers and a yellow check mark for $2,000. That's not bad. We could maybe afford that at CBP. We got to get on this website, blackhatwhatever.com. See if we can grab something. I don't know, but it's funny. The SEC thing is like a disaster for that's like linked to this. I can't wait to discuss that. But overall, Len, you're right. Like, just spend if you had a 20-minute board meeting about whether or not to do this, spend the same 20 minutes setting up 2FA and doing a proper password and like writing it down on a piece of paper. It's not that hard, but no one does it, right? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, if I could make suggestions, use capitals here, numbers here, characters like slashes, dots.
They tell you to do that when you set up a password. Like, we obviously just made an account for CBP a little while ago, and like when you set up a password, they tell you whether it's weak or strong. Like, do you just push through with the weak password? Like, what is the excuse for this? I have no idea. Yeah, anyone can figure this out, except for the people who need to, I guess.
Well, they have money to burn. It doesn't really matter, I suppose. Sure. But we can move on, because a Canadian court recently issued a ruling, and this is an interesting ruling, which limits the number of times that police can attempt to guess a suspect's phone password. So if they have access to a phone and they're not able to get into it right away, the courts have limited how many times you're able to have them allowed to get into it. So in this specific case, the judge restricted the police to no more than 175 million attempts.
How many that number?
That's a lot. 170. Like, think about it. All those people that have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as their code. How hard is it going to be to guess in that 175 million attempts? And the ruling stems from a situation where the police sought access to phones suspected to contain child pornography. While acknowledging the possibility that cracking the passcode will take several years, upwards of 2 years, the judge that he deemed the odds statistically negligible and therefore unjustifiable for an extensive number of attempts. It makes me wonder, why wouldn't they just allow them an unlimited amount of attempts given what they suspect is on the phone? But I mean, it's hard for me to say what was the rationale for this. That there could have been some precedents, or they could have been citing some other court rulings. I do not know. But I mean, given what's at stake here, personally, and I think a lot of other people might agree with me in this, but if not, it's their choice, I would allow them an unlimited amount. And if they could somehow get into it, take some whatever amount of time, whatever amount of energy to do so, and to confirm that there is some of this on their phone, and then you could just basically nail this guy to the cross. But whatever. I guess 175 million attempts. Hopefully they'll be able to do it within that. It's an odd number, but whatever. It is what it is.
I'm going to look up here just a sec. How to pronounce a number. And I'm going to type a number in here that's in the story. This is going to be nuts. Okay, so the number of possible passwords, I think, with a 6-digit alphanumeric passcode for each phone.
It's nominal or something.
I'll tell you right now. It is 44 nonillion, 12 octillion, 666 septillion, 865 sextillion, 176 quintillion, 569 quadrillion, 755 trillion, 543,212,890,625. That's how many possible passwords there are. 175 million is truly a small number in that context. So sometimes I go down like these YouTube rabbit holes, and one of them is phone repair, people who bring in old phones to try and get like pictures off them, for example. And you can plug in this thing that I think a lot of repair shops have that basically will just brute force a 4-digit passcode on an old iPhone overnight. If you have access to the device, it'll basically be able to do it for you overnight. And I think when Apple included or started to include these alphanumeric passwords or the 6-digit passcodes, really started to cause a problem for these repair shops and also for law enforcement. And the only problem I have here, Len, I don't have a problem with them limiting attempts. I think that's fine. But my beef here is like the way that the Ottawa Citizen frames the story. How many times should forensic investigators be allowed to guess the password of a locked cell phone belonging to a suspected pedophile? I don't know. Why don't you prove that he's a pedophile before you have access to his phone? Try that. And if you can't do that, then you don't get the phone. Because again, like we talk on the show a lot about how children's safety and defense against pedophilia and online sex trafficking and child pornography and things like that, it's used often as a wedge in the door to remove privacy and the expectation of having a private device. This is, to me, like the question isn't how many times should you be able to do it. The question is, what does it mean to be a suspected pedophile compared to being able to confirm it? And there's other ways to do this besides taking someone's phone for 3 years. Is there not? I mean, there surely needs to be. And the police services should be thinking about that and thinking about doing good work, which they often do, I'm sure, to prove these things before getting the phone. The phone should be the sort of cherry on top when you're doing an investigation like this, in my opinion. And there's plenty of opportunities, I think, to grab these sort of perpetrators with other means before you say, we have to grab your phone because you're a suspected pedophile. I think that's dangerous. But overall, that number, Len, is like super small. It's very small in the grand scheme of things. And probably with like a jailbroken phone or with a Graphene OS phone, I'm not sure. Presumably, you could use more than just the 6 digits. Presumably, you could use more than just alphanumeric. You could do symbols. You could do all this stuff.
Oh,
and so that
yeah.
number, it grows
password
exponentially, right? Yeah, it grows exponentially. So this is, again, another example of our legislative bodies trying to keep up with a technological landscape that is way past escape velocity at this point when it comes to like keeping up with our laws and things like that. Not great, but there's some caution here too, I think.
What if this is the only piece of evidence to tie him to this?
How can it, like, I'm trying to think about how a phone could be the only piece of evidence. Like,
he doesn't use a computer. He uses Tor, he uses a VPN, and so he's able to cover tracks.
I guess, but like, presumably you could go and get a hard drive. I don't know, like execute.
But there is no hard drive. Again, if he only uses a phone and he has no other piece of equipment,
it's difficult for me to think about it because I just don't know. But I mean, this idea that you can be suspected of something and have your hardware seized, to me, I mean, we've seen this before, right? We've talked about this. How many stupid NGOs or international organizations are like, oh, well, we got to protect you from child pornography. No encryption allowed. SHA-256 not allowed on the retail side of things anymore. Like that's sort of the direction we're heading. And I sound like a pedophile apologist. I'm not, of course, but we have to make a distinction here. What is private and what is required to grab somebody's private property and just try to get into the thing for 3 years? If it's a suspicion, I don't think that's enough. You got to prove it to me. Like that, again, that should really be the cherry on top, I think. And, maybe you can go through the service provider or whatever. I have no idea, Len, but to me, some caution to be had here, I think.
Oh, there's lots of dots we just don't have the ability to connect because we don't have the data.
Yeah.
But we could move on. We could talk about something we do have the data on, and it is a recent wave of cyber attacks that's been targeting YouTube channels. And I guess we got to be careful with this as well with our channel. So hackers are compromising these channels, and once they do so, they're uploading videos that appear to be legitimate tutorials on how to crack software. And these videos, they unfortunately contain malicious links that, when clicked, they infect the viewer's devices with malware called the Lumma stealer.
3 out of 5.
Yeah, 2.5, maybe at best.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. Yeah. So the Lumma stealer, this is a potent piece of malware, and it steals a variety of sensitive information from their victims, including the login credentials, financial data, and even how much digital assets you have, like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So this is pretty damning stuff. And the attackers behind these scams, they're pretty adept at evading detection, and they're employing a lot of privacy tools and encryption techniques to stay under the radar. And so YouTube, they're doing their part. They're removing the malware from their platform, but they're really, the onus is going to be up to the people out there that are watching these videos. They shouldn't be willy-nilly just clicking on something, because if you do, well, here's an example of what may happen. I think there's also a call to action for people that do have channels to just keep an eye if there's any suspicious activities, if there's some videos that have been posted on their channel that they have no association with, that they don't have any idea. They should be more diligent to it. It's another thing that people should be aware of. But another thing, I think this is all stemming from people having poor passwords. Is how else are people uploading videos to channels?
Yeah.
And that's poor password hygiene. And so people need to practice better privacy hygiene. And here's another example. This is, there's so many things that are wrong here, and there's so many people that are at fault. But it's up to the end user, I guess. For in the grand scheme of things, they shouldn't be clicking on stuff. But come on, people, deploy better passwords.
You'd really have a hard time convincing me to download a file from like a YouTube description about hacking software. I would be very diligent with that. And also, obviously, we have a channel, as you mentioned, that's fairly popular. I know when something goes onto the channel. You know what I mean? Like, I can see it in our show inbox. I can see it on my own YouTube feed. If it's a video that I don't recognize, I would know right away, and you would too. How does this happen? People just like, are we really so, apathetic in our attention spans that we just don't care? Apathy is the wrong word there, but I'm not sure what the right word is. It's escaping me at the moment. But like, we just don't care enough to look at our channels and protect our, reputation. I suppose not. It seems, Len. Like, to me, it's not that hard. And you're right. Password effectiveness at an all-time low here. It seems. I don't know what else to say. It's like every week we talk about stories where most of the problems could be avoided with either 2FA or a stronger password. But the content just keeps coming here on Access of Easy. There's no breaks. Everyone just continuing to throw away their private data vis-a-vis poor passwords. So good luck out there, I guess, if you don't want to do that. But you're going to find that more and more people are looking to grab these channels because reputation is something that you have a difficult time buying, as we've seen in the past. So security may be the most important thing when it comes to reputational protection these days.
And let's talk about that story that ties to the first one, which is the
Love
SEC. And their account on X, unfortunately for the SEC, and probably for a lot of people out there as well, it was compromised. So just to give an idea what's transpired this past week, actually for the past little while, there's been speculation that a Bitcoin ETF was going to be approved. And this has been going on for months, this speculation. And this past Tuesday, the SEC Twitter account announced that they have approved the spot Bitcoin ETF. And then shortly thereafter, they reneged this. They said, no, it's unfortunately because this is not true, because it was somebody compromised the account. And so Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, said, no, this is not yet approved. It caused a lot of stir. But I mean, before I go even
though
further
it was
into
approved
this,
at that point, by the way, even though it was approved at that point, like
behind the scenes, it was
a clown show, right?
It was approved officially the next day, and it went live on Thursday. So it's not like this wasn't coming. It took 2 days for this to officially become live. So on Tuesday, this announcement came out on the SEC Twitter account. It's not true. It was hacked. But what happened through all this, the Bitcoin price pumped significantly. The Bitcoin price pumped around 10%-ish or so, I think, from when it was a significant amount. And shortly as soon as it was announced, like literally within a couple of minutes of it being announced but not being disproved, the price of Bitcoin then dropped significantly as well, below the price where it started for this announcement. So it makes me wonder, like, what's going on here? Who's doing what? Is it people that are buying these gold check marks from the dark web? I'll let a story that we talked about earlier today. The second thing is, what type of password security are they doing with the SEC? Now, the SEC, the Twitter account, just goes to show you, if you just do a little bit of talking on there about something, you can move markets. It may not be true. You just have access to the account, and you just say something about anything, the market's going to move. Somebody could take advantage of this, and probably somebody did take advantage of this. And I don't understand how they just don't employ stronger passwords, better security measures for something as important as the SEC's Twitter account. Because this thing, centralized it may be, but still a lot of people look at this as the be-all and end-all for getting information with respect to the markets. This is a closed garden, closed-walled system, and they are the gatekeepers. And if they have an account, a Twitter account that is poorly managed, poorly run, and terrible password protection, I don't know what to say. And they're the ones preaching out there all the time. You should be using 2FA, good passwords.
Yeah.
And they're not the ones that are doing, like, that's hypocrisy at its finest. I mean, what else could I say about this? This is a true fail on every respect.
I enjoyed this story quite a bit. Obviously, you and I are Bitcoiners, and this was great content for that. I think it was Wednesday, I guess. No, Tuesday. I had a great time with this story. I even joined a call in the chat that you and I are both in on the way home from a sports equipment shop here in town, because I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. The price was up at 48 or 49, then down at 45 in the same 15 minutes. And one of the things about this, you're calling it hypocrisy. I would just call it laziness, I think, Len. Probably somebody at the SEC is responsible for making sure that 2FA is turned on that account. Elon obviously tweeting out later that the SEC account was compromised. The problem was that there was no 2FA. Someone got the password and off you go, right? That's all it takes. It's funny to me that the SEC is responsible, at least in name, at least on the brochure, they're responsible for consumer protection. But holy Christ, man, talk about dropping the ball. You probably watched, at least a 7 or 8 figure sum of liquidations on those 2 big candles, right? One green and then one red immediately after. And you got to think the people who got absolutely torched by that price action probably don't feel very protected, do they? It's like a constant battle with the SEC and their reputation. They just don't do themselves any favors. And like I mentioned, the best part is that was almost for sure a scheduled tweet. And that's the thing I think that a lot of people are missing. You can say what you want about them hacking the account, blah, blah, blah. But to me, that looks like a tweet the SEC would put out anyways. And it looks like it was scheduled. So I think that Gary Gensler also, talk about embarrassing, should have done a press conference to talk about that and talk about the approval, but instead tweeted out some, soft whimper of a thing about how they don't approve of Bitcoin, even if they approve of the ETF. Completely ridiculous. That's a, fraudulent agency in so many ways, but we'll save that for another story.
We'll talk about this more next week, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, sure. We're definitely going to talk about it on CBP on Monday. I'll tell you that.
SIM swapping. Oh, this is... I hate this. I actually hate this.
This is the diciest part about owning a mobile phone. Easily.
Yeah. So this is a good story because it's an interesting story because a gentleman by the name of Ryan DeLone, he's attempting to recover around $100,000 in his digital assets through a very interesting legal strategy. So he was subjected to a SIM swap attack, where his account from Coinbase was compromised. So he was keeping $100,000 ish of digital assets on Coinbase. Buddy, learn how to do cold storage, and you could be your own the master of your own domain. So he's been working with experts to track the flow of where it was stolen, because this is all transparent, and we're talking about the ledger, like Bitcoin, for instance. Mm-hmm. So his lawyer Ethan Mora, they identified the Bitcoin wallet that the ultimate destination of his client's digital assets were sent to. And Mora says his client has since been made aware that the Bitcoin address in question is embroiled in an ongoing federal investigation into a cryptocurrency theft ring. I think this guy hit the jackpot here, because how lucky is he to figure this one out, that where his funds were sent to is actually
difficult
in an ongoing
in a lot
investigation.
of cases, right? Yeah.
It's an incredible. So this gives him enough ammo, or some ammo, maybe enough ammo, to sue the person that is holding on to these stolen funds, because now he's able to connect dots here. So instead of traditional methods, they're able just to serve and attach legal notice to this small amount of Bitcoin sent to the address containing the stolen funds. This is very innovative because, again, as I said, Bitcoin is a public ledger, so you could actually see where funds are being sent to until it gets mixed, and it kind of it just obscures the whole process. But this person didn't do it. I don't know why, dumbass, if you ask me, but it just goes to show you this is a new way of actually dealing with stolen goods, digital assets. And it's a very interesting way of actually figuring out who got it. So I like it. I don't like the I can't really blame the guy for the SIM swap attack. That's more of an issue with the provider itself, the cell phone provider. They're the ones that they're giving up the information to the attacker. So I feel sorry for this guy, Ryan DeLone. I think this is a good opportunity for him to learn that self-custody of his Bitcoin and other digital assets is the best way to go. But that's a story for another time. But yeah, I found this story to be very interesting, and I'm curious to see what happens at the end, because this is still an ongoing story. So there's nothing concluded as of yet.
Me too. You can see some of the stuff related to the on-chain analytics if you want. You can find this, data here. There's a couple links. I think at its core, Len, is this not a 2FA problem? It's a 2FA problem. If you had 2FA enabled, you don't have to worry about being SIM swap, because your SIM swap, text message as 2FA doesn't do any good to the hacker. It doesn't do any good to the perpetrator, right? If you have the proper app, whether it's Authy or Google Authenticator or Microsoft or the free open source one you use, there's tons of options here to stay away from SIM swapping. We've talked about on this show before, and I've talked about this on Two Whites and a Blue. I've talked about it on CBP. I've talked about it personal life, professional life. There is a staggering growth in incompetent people in positions that really require competent people more than we realize until it's too late. One of them is in these mobile carrier help positions, service desk positions, phone in agent positions, where they are getting fleeced. It seems like, Len, every week there's a big enough fleece job on a SIM swap that we talk about it on Easy or Access of Easy. How is it possible that there's not more of these going on in the background? Of course there are. There's probably tons of them going on in the background. And, the more that crypto and Bitcoin proliferate as ways to store value and protect wealth and transfer wealth, the more this will become a problem. And I wouldn't be surprised to see mobile carriers implementing significantly more stringent requirements for anyone calling in and pretending to be someone who owns an account or a phone, because it's overdue, right? You can't rely 100% on Coinbase to make sure that your cell phone's not compromised. Coinbase is doing something, I'm sure, to make sure, but they can't do 100% of the work because it's not 100% under their purview. And, in the case of this story, yeah, man, like, you do a lot better, obviously, if you're self-custodying, because, if you have your Bitcoin on a cold card, there is no SIM swap attack, right? If you have your Bitcoin on even a Ledger or a Trezor, one of these garbage, really low-level retail wallets, you're still doing better than leaving it on Coinbase and opening yourself to a SIM swap attack. So I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about this on CBP. I'm not sure, but I'd be curious to hear where this goes and see where this goes, because it's not often, like you mentioned, you have the endpoint pinned down like this. So let's see. I don't know. Is this guy just gonna go to his house? Like, is he gonna get on a plane?
No, he said $5 rent tax to the perpetrator. No.
Okay, you said there's 6 stories. That's the last story I see in the letter.
There's one more. When they sent us the information, they failed to provide us the link. I had to do some digging into this. This is
okay.
So it says crypto phishing attacks,
okay.
And this is a one that's took place. Actually, a bunch of them that took place in 2023, and a staggering amount of money was lost through all these phishing attacks, and some $300 million in total was stolen. This is all done by malware. And in 2023, cyber criminals successfully swindled, as I mentioned, $300 million. And this is over 300,000 victims. So around, it's a lot of victims out there that are being, all through phishing attacks, by the way. So there's a lot of people are pretty dumb. The malware responsible for the highest loss, I can't believe they actually were able to figure this out, was Inferno Drainer. And this single malware was able to siphon off a staggering $81 million. So this is the Mount Rushmore of siphoning off. So yeah, phishing websites, they're a primary tool to get people to give up their data. And these websites, as I mentioned in a previous story, or at least the information with respect to phishing, it's designed to mimic a legitimate project or airdrop. So many people get suckered into these airdrop things. Thereby, these unsuspecting users, they're signing in with give up this information. They grant access to their wallets or their holdings, and it's done at that point. So that's all you got to do. You got to find somebody that is susceptible to airdrops, ask them to give up access to their holdings, and then voila, you're in the gold here. So yeah, it's a reminder. You just can't give up your information like this willy-nilly. I'm sure people listening to this are not doing this, but stay away from scams. If people out there are getting into this, they're newly getting into this. When you see like a new project, NFTs, airdrops, all that garbage, run away. don't get involved. Dive deep into what the heck why is it a scam, but don't give up any information. Don't connect your wallet to this. Don't give any, like, your email, nothing. Just read about it, laugh at it after, and then look at all the people that are having their funds siphoned off. So, and it's all due to malware, and people are just morons clicking on stuff, giving away information willy-nilly. But yeah, that's the last story, Joey.
Connecting the wallet is insane. We've talked so many times about how, guys, even as, like, presumably anyway, maybe not actually bright and technologically savvy as Mark Cuban, get fleeced on MetaMask by connecting their wallet to stupid airdrops or whatever. And you hear this actually on Bankless sometimes. These guys talk about scams that are going on in the airdrop world. I mean, there's more scams than not. The question is really only on the degree of scam, right? Like, not every scam will drain your wallet directly by connecting it, but every scam will drain your wallet over time by forcing you to invest in worthless garbage. So, if you want to play in this market, I would say you're asking for trouble, first of all. Second of all, you're asking for more taxable events than you can handle on your own with your Excel sheet. And I would say that you should just be playing with Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin and holding that self-custody and not connecting wallets to anything. There's no need to connect wallets. You're talking about the future of finance. Trust me, my friends, it's not in NFTs and airdrops. It's in the hardest asset around. That's Bitcoin. So, talking my book a little bit there, but I think we've been proven right over time here. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So yeah, good episode, Len. That was a good rip. Friday morning rip. Got the coffee going, or at least I did. I'm drinking water now. But that was I closed my other tab, 332, I think. So if you want to come back for 333, we'd love to have you. The water's warm. Come back next week for the podcast. Sign up on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast on whatever feeder you use. And until the next episode of Data Breach and Overreach, take care of yourselves.
Yeah, take care.